position to be in your head for a minute. I thought I mentioned how politicians is just in it for riches. He blue collar for 40 years and yet he can't get pension. But it's 52 million a day on some fake space missions. Money's in the wrong position, wrong pockets and purses. Actually what the fact is that money is truly worthless. The purpose of printing money is to put you deeper in debt to it. Lower class could spend their whole lives trying to get to it and not profit 2 cents as if loot be elusive. Tragic who you can lose when it happens to be reducing. I'm guessing that my conclusion, money make us act stupid. They divide with it, conquer it, then continue to rule with it. Cool as a cucumber, but we hungry like some hostages. They live in paradise, while they keep us where the monsters live, called the metropolis. And debt keeps it operative, and the money is generated solely by the populace.
We spent our whole damn lives trapped in the bankster's paradise. Keep spending our whole life living in the bankster's paradise. We spent our whole damn lives trapped in the bankster's paradise. Keep spending our whole life living in the bankster's paradise.
Money equals slavery, slavery equals money. Man, I hate living this way, cause they're taking my freedom from me. It ain't gonna be so funny when you find out the fact that you're meant to be on the bottom. They designed it like that. Many people refuse to believe, but it's actually all for real. And the truth is there to see on the back of the dollar bill. It's a pyramid with an all-seeing eye at the top, letting you know that you're a slave whether you like it or not. They make the rules and we're the ones that must obey. It's not a mystery. We're kept in the dark and we're kept away from our true history. The system we live in uses humans to harvest energy. So basically the Matrix is really a documentary. Facts. They live, we sleep, and they love to fuck us over. Bang, bang, skeet, skeet. They take over your mind and they control you with their lies. I just want you to open up your eyes.
Tell me why are we so blind to see that there's no such thing as freedom when none of us are free? Tell me why are we so blind to see that there's no such thing as freedom when none of us are free? We spent our whole damn lives trapped in the bankster's paradise. Keep spending our whole life living in the bankster's paradise. We spent our whole damn lives trapped in the bankster's paradise. Keep spending our whole life living in the bankster's paradise.
1, 2, we are being lied to. 3, 4, time to go to war. 5, 6, all fall for their tricks. 7, 8, gotta stay awake. 9, 10, never sleep again. 9, 10, never sleep again. 9, 10, never sleep again. 9, 10, never sleep again.
Why are we so blind to see that there's no such thing as freedom when none of us are free? Tell me why are we so blind to see that there's no such thing as freedom when none of us are free? We spent our whole damn lives trapped in the bankster's paradise. Keep spending our whole life living in the bankster's paradise. We spent our whole damn lives trapped in the bankster's paradise. Keep spending our whole life living in the bankster's paradise.
Hello, welcome to story time. I was trying to think of like an introduction, and then when the thing actually popped up, totally forgot of everything that I was thinking of. So here I am. Shout out to everyone here. I smoked way too much weed today. Maybe not enough. I don't know. I'm just like, I got really stoned today. So I just feel like my my brain power is on low speed currently. But hello to Michelle L, Barbara Zena Bear, Sue Finelli, and Doc Michael and Globusters. Hello. So don't forget to hit the Rogans up. And my P.O. Box, PayPal, and Cash App are all in the description. We're continuing with the Chronicles of Narnia. We're on the 5th book, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Tonight is chapter 11 and 12. But how is everyone doing? I went to a bear meetup on Sunday, and it was awesome. There was about 100 people there, and lots of children, tons of attractive single guys, and just a bunch of really super awesome people. So I got this mug, handmade mug, and I traded 2 jars of my jam to get this, and totally worth it. And my jam was a pretty big hit. I made a jalapeno jam on Saturday, and so I had some mixed berry jam that I had made before that was really sweet, and then the other one was pineapple, mango, peach, strawberry, jalapeno jam, and it was really good. And I opened a jar and I was letting people try it, and yeah, I traded uh, a few jars of that for a few different really awesome things, and then sold a few jars as well. So it was really awesome. And yeah, a few other people had some just really cool stuff for sale. You know, nice artwork, neat wallets, just healthy stuff. Yeah, I don't know what I was trying to say there. Hello, 888 Industries 640015. Welcome. You're coming to Cyborg. Yeah, I mean, that's what they want you to be. So don't comply. Don't join with the AI. But yeah, it was a super fun meetup. Tons of people there, and then the weather was really good, and yeah, it was a super good time. And I'm having a meetup on December 18th at the Farm Boy in Olympia, Washington at 2 p.m. And so, yeah, I'm pretty sure Mark Sargent is going to be there. I will be there, obviously. And yeah, it's going to be a good time. So, this diner is very mask lenient and looks like they serve breakfast all day, which is always a good thing. But yeah, so come on out to my meetup. It's going to be a good time. Going to be a very good time. And let's see, I have a craft fair in my community coming up this Saturday. So I've been making a few crafts and whatnot to sell in that, but I'm also going to start making tumblers, and they're going to be really cool. So I'm really excited for that. But anyway, trying to think, is there anything else going on? I mean, I think that's about it, really. Just same old, you know. Work here, don't work there, do this, do that, make some art. Oh yeah, I was planning on starting my conspiracy chat streams tomorrow, but I'm gonna do it next week because, hello Eric, because I really want to do a good job on it, and I want to put together like nice presentation. And thank you, Doc Michael. I'm actually going to be making a batch of those for this weekend, because you just never know who might be a flat earther, and so might be someone living right here in my neighborhood that I didn't even know. And so I'm going to make some to sell this weekend as well. But Yeah. I lost my train of thought. I don't know. Um, shall we just get into it? Just go for it? I think we should. I think we should. So, we are on chapter 11, The Dufflepuds Made Happy. Lucy followed the great lion out into the passage, and at once she saw coming toward them an old man, barefoot, dressed in a red robe. His white hair was crowned with a chaplet of oak leaves, his beard fell to his girdle, and he supported himself with a curiously carved staff. When he saw Aslan, he bowed low and said, "Welcome, sir, to the least of your houses." Do you grow wary, Korakin, of ruling such foolish subjects as I have given you here? No, said the magician. They are very stupid, but there is no real harm in them. I begin to grow rather fond of the creatures. Sometimes, perhaps, I am a little impatient, waiting for the day when they can be governed by wisdom instead of this rough magic. All in good time, Koraikin, said Aslan. Yes, all in very good time, sir, was the answer. Do you intend to show yourself to them? Nay, said the lion, with a little half growl that meant, Lucy thought, the same as a laugh. I should frighten them out of their senses. Many stars will grow old and come to take their rest in islands before your people are ripe for that. And today, before sunset, I will. Oh my gosh. Before sunset, I must visit Trumpkin, the dwarf, where he sits in the castle of Cair Paravel, counting the days till his master Caspian comes home. I will tell him all your story. Lucy, do not look so sad. We shall meet again soon. Please, Aslan, said Lucy, what do you call soon? I call all times soon, said Aslan, and instantly he was vanished away, and Lucy was alone with the magician. Gone, said he, and you and I quite crestfallen. I got distracted by you guys. You guys are all so funny. Silly, silly boys. It's always like that, and you can't keep him. It's not as if he were a tame lion. And how did you enjoy my book? Parts of it very much indeed, said Lucy. Did you know I was there all the time? Well, of course I knew when I let the duffers make themselves invisible that you would be coming along presently to take the spell off. I wasn't quite sure of the exact day, and I wasn't especially on the watch this morning. You see, they had made me invisible too, and being invisible always makes me so sleepy. Hey ho, there I'm yawning again. Are you hungry? Well, perhaps I am a little, said Lucy. I've no idea what the time is. Come, said the magician, all times may be soon to Aslan, but in my home all hungry times are at 1 o'clock. He led her a little way down the passage and opened a door. Passing in, Lucy found herself in a pleasant room full of sunlight and flowers. The table was bare when they entered, but it was of course a magic table, and at a word from the old man the tablecloth, silver platters, glasses, and food appeared. I hope that is what you would like, he said. I have tried to give you food more like the food of your own land than perhaps you have had lately. It's lovely, said Lucy, and so it was. An omelette piping hot, cold lamb and green peas, a strawberry ice, lemon squash to drink with the meal, and a cup of chocolate to follow. But the magician himself drank only wine and ate only bread. Only bread. There was nothing alarming about him, and Lucy and he were soon chatting away like old friends. "When will the spell work?" asked Lucy. "Will the Duffers be visible again at once?" "Oh, yes, they're visible now, but they're probably all asleep still. They always take a rest in the middle of the day. And now that they're visible, are you going to let them off being ugly? Will you make them as they were before?" "Well, that's a rather delicate question," said the magician. "You see, it's only they who think they were so nice to look at before. They say they've been uglified, but that isn't what I called it. Many people might say that the change was for the better. Are they awfully conceited?" "They are, or at least the chief duffer is, and he's taught all the rest to be. They always believe every word he says." "Yes, we'd noticed that," said Lucy. "Yes, we'd better get on without him in a way. Of course, I could turn him into something else, or even put a spell on him which would make them not believe a word he said. But I don't like to do that. It's better for them to admire him than to admire nobody." "Don't they admire you?" said Lucy. "I might agree. What's up?" "Oh, no, not me," said the magician. "They wouldn't admire me." "What was it you uglified them for? I mean, what they called uglified?" "Well, they wouldn't do what they were told. Their work is to mind the garden and raise food, not for me, as they imagine, but for themselves. They wouldn't do it at all if I didn't make them. And of course a garden you want to water. There is a beautiful spring about half a mile away up the hill, and from that spring there flows a stream which comes right past the garden. All I asked them to do was take their water from the stream instead of trudging up to the spring with their buckets 2 or 3 times a day and tiring themselves out, besides spilling half of it on the way back. But they wouldn't see it. In the end, they refused point blank." "Are they as stupid as all that?" said Lucy. The magician sighed. "You wouldn't believe the troubles I've had with them. A few months ago they were all for washing up the plates and knives before dinner. They said it saved time afterward. I've caught them planning boiled potatoes to save cooking them when they were dug up. One day the cat got into the dairy, and 20 of them were at work moving all the milk out. No one thought of moving the cat. But I see you've finished. Let's go and look at the Duffers now that they can be looked at." Real cosmology. I know how to get to Narnia. Well, aren't you a special boy? I mean, there's a couple ways to get in there, but I still have not been called to Narnia. Sad. Stuck in dreary mundania, being just another muggle. I have just enough magic to be magic, but just can't get into the magic lands. They went into another room which was full of polished instruments, hard to understand, such as astrolabes, oriers, chronoscopes, uh, posimeters, choriambuses, and theodolines. And here, when they had come to the window, the magician said, there are your duffers." "I don't see anybody," said Lucy. "And what are those mushroom things?" The things she pointed at were dotted all over the level grass. They were certainly very like mushrooms, but far too big. The stalks about 3 feet high, and the umbrellas about the same length from edge to edge. When she looked carefully, she noticed too that the stalks joined the umbrellas, not in the middle, but at one side, which gave an unbalanced look to them. And there was something, a sort of little bundle, lying on the grass at the foot of each stalk. In fact, the longer she gazed at them, the less like mushrooms they appeared. The umbrella part was not really round as she had thought at first. It was longer than it was broad, and it widened at one end. There were a great many of them, 50 or more. The clock struck 3. Instantly a most extraordinary thing happened. Each of the mushrooms suddenly turned upside down. The little bundles which had lain at the bottom of the stalks were heads and bodies. The stalks themselves were legs, but not 2 legs to each body. Each body had a single thick leg right under it, not to one side like the leg of a one-legged man, and at the end of it a single enormous foot. A broad-toed foot with the toes curling up a little so that it looked rather like a small canoe. She saw in a moment why they had looked like mushrooms. They had been lying flat on their backs, each with its single leg straight up in the air and its enormous foot spread out above it. She learned afterward that this was their ordinary way of resting, for the foot kept off both rain and sun, and for a monopod to lie under its own foot is almost as good as being in a tent. "Oh, the funnies!" cried Lucy, bursting into laughter. "Did you make them like that?" "Yes, yes, I made the duffers into monopods," said the magician. He too was laughing till the tears ran down his cheeks. "But watch," he added. It was worth watching. Of course, these little one-footed men couldn't walk or run as we do. They got about by jumping, like fleas or frogs, and what jumps they made! As if each big foot were a mass of springs, and with what a bounce they came down. That was what made the thumping noise which had so puzzled Lucy yesterday. For now they were jumping in all directions and calling out to one another, "Hey lads, we're visible again!" If you do shrooms in Narnia, do you see the real world? I think if you do shrooms anywhere, you're gonna see more of the real world. I really want to figure out, uh, I want to find some good mushrooms that I can microdose with, because I haven't done mushrooms in a really long time, and I I feel like it'd be a really fun thing to add into my art projects, and they're really fun. So, been taking pictures of mushrooms, and yeah, I want to learn which ones are the good ones to eat while I'm outside. Yeah, I'm not trying to trip out like crazy. I've had like pretty solid trips. I just want like a little trip, you know, not not a crazy one, just a little one. "Visible we are," said one in a tasseled red cap, who was obviously the chief monopod. "And what I say is, when chaps are visible, why they can see one another." "Ah, there it is, chief," cried all the others. "There's the point. No one's got a clearer head than you. You couldn't have made it plainer." Eat a whole eighth all at once? Whew, yeah, I would not be able to do that. Nope, nope, nope. I used to take them before I would go to um, concerts that I knew there was going to be, a lot of laser lights and flames and explosions, stuff like that. Really fun to take some mushrooms and then go to that. She got the old man napping. That little girl did, said the chief monopod. We've beaten him this time. And just what we were going to say ourselves, chimed the chorus. You're going stronger than ever today, chief. Keep it up, keep it up. But do they dare to talk about you like that? Said Lucy. They seemed to be so afraid of you yesterday. Don't they know you might be listening? That's one of the funny things about the Duffers, said the magician. One minute they talk as if I ran everything and overheard everything and was extremely dangerous. The next moment they think they can take me in by tricks that a baby would see through. Bless them. Will they have to be turned back into their proper shapes? Asked Lucy. Oh, I do hope it wouldn't be unkind to leave them as they are. Do they really mind very much? They seem pretty happy. I say, look at that jump. What were they like before? Common little dwarfs. Common little dwarf, said he. Nothing like so nice as the sort you've had in Narnia. It would be a pity to change them back, said Lucy. They're so funny, and they're rather nice. Do you think it would make any difference if I told them that? I'm sure it would if you could get it into their heads. Will you come with me and try? No, no, you'll get on far better without me. Thanks awfully for the lunch, said Lucy, and turned quickly away. She ran down the stairs, which she had come up so nervously that morning, and cannoned into Edmund at the bottom. All the I can't turn the page. All the others were there with him waiting, and Lucy's conscience smote her when she saw their anxious faces and realized how long she had forgotten them. It's all right, she shouted. Everything's all right. The magician's a brick, and I've seen him, Aslan. After that, she went from them like the wind and out into the garden. Here the earth was shaking with all the jumps, and the air ringing with the shouts of the monopods. Both were redoubled when they caught sight of her. Here she comes! Here she comes! They cried. 3 cheers for the little girl! Ah, she put it across the old gentleman properly, she did. And we're extremely regrettable, said the chief monopod, that we can't give you the pleasure of seeing us as we were before we were uglified, for you wouldn't believe the difference, and that's the truth, for there's no denying we're mortal ugly now, so we won't deceive you. Ah, that we are, chief, that we are, echoed the others, bouncing like so many toy balloons. You've said it, you've said it. But I don't think you are at all, said Lucy, shouting to make herself heard. I think you look very nice. Hear her, said the monopods. True for you, missy. Very nice we look. You couldn't find a handsomer lot. They said this without any surprise, and did not seem to notice that they had changed their minds. She's a sayin', remarked the chief monopod, as how we looked very nice before we were uglified. True for you, chief, true for you, chanted the others. That's what she says. We heard her ourselves. I did not, bawled Lucy. I said you're very nice now. So she did, said the chief monopod, and we were very nice then. Hear him both, said the monopods. There's a pair for you, always right. They couldn't have put it better. But we're saying just the opposite, said Lucy, stamping her foot with impatience. So you are, to be sure, so you are, said the monopods. Nothing like an opposite. Keep it up, both of you. You're enough to drive anyone mad, said Lucy, and gave it up. But the monopod seemed perfectly contented, and she decided that on the whole the conversation had been a success. And before everyone went to bed that evening, something else happened which made them even more satisfied with their one-legged condition. Caspian and all the Narnians went back as soon as possible to the shore to give their news to Rince and the others on board the Dawn Treader, who were by now very anxious. and of course the monopods went with them, bouncing like footballs and agreeing with one another in loud voices till Eustace said, "I wish the magician would make them inaudible instead of invisible." He was soon sorry he had spoken, because then he had to explain that an inaudible thing is something you can't hear, and though he took a lot of trouble, he never felt sure that the monopods had really understood. And what especially annoyed him was that they said in the end, he can't put things the way our chief does, but you'll learn, young man, hark to him. He'll show you how to say things. There's a speaker for you." When they reached the bay, Reepicheep had a brilliant idea. He had his little coracle lowered and paddled himself about in it till the monopods were thoroughly interested. He then stood up in it and said, "Worthy and intelligent monopods, you do not need boats. Each of you has a foot that will do instead. Just jump as lightly as you can on the water and see what happens." The chief monopod hung back and warned the others that they'd find the water powerful wet, but one or two of the younger ones tried it almost at once, and then a few others followed their example, and at last the whole lot did the same. It worked perfectly. The huge single foot of a monopod acted as a natural raft or boat, and when Reepicheep had taught them how to cut crude paddles for themselves, they all paddled about the bay and round the Dawn Treader, looking for all the world like a fleet of little canoes with a fat dwarf standing up in the extreme stern of each. And they had races, and bottles of wine were lowered down to them from the ship as prizes, and the sailors stood leaning over the ship's sides and laughed till their own sides ached. The Duffers were also very pleased with their new name of monopods, which seemed to them a magnificent name, though they never got it right. "That's what we are," they bellowed. "Moneypods, Pomanods, Pottymons," just what it was on the tips of our tongues to call ourselves. But they soon got it mixed up with their old name of Duffers, and finally settled down to calling themselves the Dufflepuds. And that is what they will probably be called for centuries. That evening, all the Narnians dined upstairs with the magician, and Lucy noticed how different the whole top floor looked now that she was no longer afraid of it. The mysterious signs on the doors were still mysterious, but now they looked as if they had kind and cheerful meanings, and even the bearded mirror now seemed funny rather than frightening. At dinner, everyone had by magic what everyone liked best to eat and drink, and after dinner, the magician did a very useful and a very useful and beautiful piece of magic. He laid two blank sheets of parchment on the table and asked Drinian to give him an exact account of their voyage up to date. And as Drinian spoke, everything he described came out on the parchment in fine, clear lines, till at last each sheet was a splendid map of the Eastern Ocean, showing Gama, Terebinthia, the Seven Isles, the Lone Islands, Island, Burnt Island, Deathwater, and the land of the Duffers itself, all exactly the right sizes and in the right positions. There, they were the very, they were the they were the first maps ever made of those seas, and better than any that have been made since without magic. For on these, though the towns and mountains looked at first just as they would on an ordinary map, when the magician lent them a magnifying glass, you saw that there were perfect little pictures of the real things, so that you could see the very castle and slave market and streets in Narrowhaven, all very clear though very distant, like things seen through the wrong end of a telescope. The only drawback was that the coastline of most of the islands was incomplete, for the map showed only what Drinian had seen with his own eyes. When they were finished, the magician kept one himself and presented the other to Caspian. It still hangs in his chamber of instruments at Cair but the magician could tell them nothing about seas or lands further east. He did, however, tell them that about 7 years before, a Narnian ship had put in at his waters, and that she had on board the Lords Revelian, Argos, Mavramorn, and Rube. So they judged that the golden man they had seen lying in Deathwater would lying in Deathwater must be the Lord Restamar. Next day, the magician magically mended the stern of the Dawn Treader, where it had been damaged by the sea serpent, and loaded her with useful gifts. There was a most friendly parting, and when she sailed 2 hours after noon, all the Dufflepuds paddled out with her to the harbor mouth, and cheered until she was out of sound of their cheering. Right. Hello, Shell Owl, Globebusters, Doc Michael, Sue Finelli, Barbacina Bear, Triple Eight Industries 640015, Doc Michael, Eric DeLeon. I am high degree. Did I say Michelle L? Hello if I did not. We still have one more chapter to go. Just trying to stay. Oh, just trying to stay more on topic of the. I still have one more chapter to go. Just trying to. There was something that I saw in chat here that I needed to take care of. 1 second. There it is. Moderator. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, Lucian Scuff Diamonds. You want one of my domes, Michelle L? They're not very much. They're only $7, so I'm making a batch of them. I will definitely get you one eventually. My best life. I cook with mushrooms, not the ones that take you from reality. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's good to stay in reality. Sometimes it's nice to escape it. And yes, this is my brick phone. Always wanted to be a magician. Hello, Clem Fandango. What's up? Well, I mean, you just have to study magic. 888, become a magician. Just, make it happen. There's magic all around the world, so make yourself into whatever kind of magician you want to be. Chapter 12, The Dark Island. Okay. After this adventure, they sailed on south and a little east for 12 days, with a gentle wind, the skies being mostly clear and the air warm, and saw no bird or fish except that once there were whales spouting a long way to starboard. Lucy and Repeat played a good deal of chess at this time. Then on the 13th day, Edmund from the fighting top sighted what looked like a great dark mountain rising out of the sea on their port bow. One big black phone. It's actually a tealish green color. It's kind of dirty and whatever. But yeah, it's like a teal color. So I got a clear case so that you can still see the color on it. Not that anybody cares at all. They altered course and made for this land, mostly by oar, for the wind would not serve them to sail northeast. When evening fell, they were still a long way from it, and rowed all night. Next morning the weather was fair, but a flat calm. The dark mass lay ahead, much nearer and larger, but still very dim, so that some thought it was still a long way off, and others thought they were running into a mist. About 9 that morning, very suddenly, it was so close that they could see that it was not land at all, nor even, in an ordinary sense, a mist. It was a darkness. It is rather hard to describe, but you will see what it is like if you imagine yourself looking into the mouth of a railway tunnel, a tunnel either so long or so twisty that you cannot see light at the far end, and you know what it would be like. For a few feet you would see the rails and sleepers and gravel in broad daylight. Then there would come a place where they were in twilight, and then pretty suddenly, but of course without a sharp dividing line, they would vanish altogether in smooth, solid blackness. It was just so here. For a few feet in front of their bows, they could see the swell of the bright greenish blue water. Beyond that, they could see the water looking pale and gray as it would look late in the evening. But beyond that again, utter blackness, as if they had come to the edge of moonless and starless night. Caspian shouted to the boatswain to keep her back, and all except the rowers rushed forward and gazed from the bows. But there was nothing to be seen by gazing. Behind them was the sea and the sun, before them the darkness. "Do we go into this?" asked Caspian at length. "Not by my advice," said Drinian. "The captain's right," said several sailors. "I almost think he is," said Edmund. Lucy and Eustace didn't speak, but they felt very glad inside at the turn things seemed to be taking. But all at once the clear voice of Reepicheep broke in upon the silence. "And why not?" he said. "Will someone explain to me why not?" No one was anxious to explain, so Reepicheep continued. "Got a picture for you. Hello, Candace. And still, has anybody heard from Kirk Wilson? I'm beginning to worry about him because he always liked the pictures. He's not been here for a while, so does anybody have a way to contact Kirk, find out if he's okay? Because it's been long enough. We need to check on him. So. If I were addressing peasants or slaves," he said, "I might suppose that this suggestion proceeded from cowardice. But I hope it will never be told in Narnia that a company of noble and royal persons in the flower of their age turned tail because they were afraid of the dark." Carrie Skates, what's happening? What is the name of the book? The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Don't know Kirk? Yeah, I only know him from chats, but I have not seen him in chat in maybe a month. I mean, long enough to wonder where he is, if he's okay. Yeah. "But what manner of use would it be, plowing through that blackness?" asked Drinian. "Use?" replied Reepicheep. "Use, Captain! If by use you mean filling our bellies or our purses, I confess it will be no use at all. So far as I know, we did not set sail to look for things useful, but to seek honor and adventure. And here is as great an adventure as I ever heard of, and here, if we turn back, no little impeachment of all our honors." Several of the sailors and things under their breath that sounded like honor be blowed, but Caspian said, "Oh, bother you, Reepicheep. I almost wish we'd left you at home. All right, if you put it that way, I suppose we shall have to go on, unless Lucy would rather not." Kirk is an original gangsta? Yes, he is. Yes. He is always in story time. Always enjoys the pictures. He's always in other chats. I haven't seen him for a while. Not in Zulu One's chat. Not anywhere else. So Someone needs to check on him. Lucy felt that she would very much rather not, but what she said out loud was, "I'm game." "Your Majesty will at least order lights," said Drinian. "By all means," said Caspian. "See to it, Captain." So the 3 lanterns at the stern and the prow and the masthead were all lit, and Drinian ordered 2 torches amidships. Pale and feeble they looked in the sunshine. Then all the men except some who were left below at the oars were ordered on deck, and fully armed and posted in their battle stations with swords drawn. Lucy and 2 archers were posted on the fighting top with bows bent and arrows on the string. Rheinelf was in the bows with his line ready to take soundings. Reepicheep, Edmund, Eustace, and Caspian, glittering in mail, were with him. Drinian took the tiller. "And now in Aslan's name, forward," cried Caspian. "A slow, steady stroke, and let every man be silent and keep his ears open for orders." With a creak and a groan, the Dawn Treader started to creep forward as the men began to row. Lucy, up in the fighting top, had a wonderful view of the exact moment at which they entered the darkness. The bows had already disappeared before the sunlight had left the stern. She saw it go. At one minute the gilded stern, the blue sea, and the sky were all in broad daylight. Next minute the sea and sky had vanished. The stern lantern, which had been hardly noticeable before, was the only thing to show where the ship ended. In front of the lantern she could see the black shape of Drinian crouching at the tiller. Down below her the 2 torches made visible 2 small patches of deck, and gleamed on swords and helmets, and forward there was another island of light on the forecastle. Apart from that, the fighting top, lit by the masthead light, which was only just above her, seemed to be a little lighted world of its own floating in lonely darkness. And the lights themselves, as always happens with lights when you have to have them at the wrong time of day, looked lurid and unnatural. She also noticed that she was very cold. What's his whole handle? Kirk Wilson. Yeah, it's normally Kirk Wilson. How long this voyage into the darkness lasted, nobody knew. Except for the creak of the rowlocks and the splash of the oars, there was nothing to show that they were moving at all. Edmund, peering from the bows, could see nothing except the reflection of the lantern in the water before him. It looked a greasy sort of reflection, and the ripple made by their advancing prow appeared to be heavy, small, and lifeless. As time went on, everyone except the rowers began to shiver with cold. Suddenly, from somewhere, no one's sense of direction was very clear by now, there came a cry, either of some inhuman voice, or else a voice of one in such extremity of terror that he had almost lost his humanity. Caspian was still trying to speak. His mouth was too dry, when the shrill voice of Reepicheep, which sounded louder than usual in that silence, was heard. "Who calls?" it piped. "If you are a foe, we do not fear you, and if you are a friend, your enemies shall be taught the fear of us." "Mercy!" cried the voice. "Mercy! Even if you are only one more dream, have mercy. Take me on board. Take me, even if you strike me dead. But in the name of all mercies, do not fade away and leave me in this horrible land." "Where are you?" shouted Caspian. "Come aboard and welcome." There came another cry, whether of joy or terror, and then they knew that someone was swimming toward them. "Stand by to heave him up, men. Heave him up, men," said Caspian. "Aye, aye, your Majesty," said the sailors. Several crowded to the port bulwark with ropes, and one leaning far out over the side, held by the torch. A wild, white face appeared in the blackness of the water, and then, after some scrambling and pulling, a dozen friendly hands had heaved the stranger on board. Edmund thought he had never seen a wilder-looking man. Though he did not otherwise look very old, his hair was an untidy mop of white, his face was thin and drawn, and for clothing only a few wet rags hung about him. But what one mainly noticed were his eyes, which were so widely opened that he seemed to have no eyelids at all, and stared as if in an agony of pure fear. The moment his feet reached the deck, he said, "Fly, fly, about with your ship, and fly! Row, row, row for your lives away from this accursed shore." "Compose yourself," said Reepicheep, "and tell us what the danger is. We are not used to flying." The stranger started horribly at the voice of the mouse, which he had not noticed before. "Nevertheless, you will fly from here," he gasped. "This is the island where dreams come true." "This is the island I've been looking for this long time," said one of the sailors. I reckon I'd find I was married to Nancy if we landed here." "And I'd find Tom alive again," said another. "Fools," said the man, stamping his foot with rage. "This is the sort of talk that brought me here, and I'd better have been drowned or never born. Do you hear what I say? This is where dreams, do you understand, come to life, come real, not daydreams, dreams." Hmm. Yeah, I don't know if he makes videos. I don't know. He's just always in chat. He hasn't been for a while now. There was about half a minute's silence, and then, with a great clatter of armor, the whole crew were tumbling down the main hatch as quick as they could and flinging themselves on the oars to row as they had never rowed before. And Drinian was swinging round the tiller, and the boatswain was giving out the quickest stroke that had ever been heard at sea. For it had taken everyone just that half minute to remember certain dreams they had had. Dreams that made you afraid of going to sleep again, and to realize what it would mean to land on a country where dreams came true. Only Reepicheep remained unmoved. Your Majesty," he said, "are you going to tolerate this mutiny, this poltroonery? This is a panic. This is a rout." "Row, row," bellowed Caspian. Pull for all our lives. Is her head right, Drinian? You can say what you like, Reepicheep. There are some things no man can face." "It is then my good fortune not to be a man," replied Reepicheep, with a very stiff bow. Lucy came from up aloft and heard it all. In an instant that one of her own dreams, which she had tried hardest to forget, came back to her as vividly as if she had only just woken from it, so that what was behind them on the island in the darkness. For a second she wanted to go down to the deck and be with Edmund and Caspian, but what was the use? If dreams began coming true, Edmund and Caspian themselves might turn into something horrible just as she reached them. She gripped the rail of the fighting top and tried to steady herself. They were rowing back to the light as hard as they could. It would be all right in a few seconds, but oh, if only it could be all right now. Though the rowing made a good deal of noise, it did not quite conceal the total silence which surrounded the ship. Everyone knew it would be better not to listen, not to strain his ears for any sound from the darkness, but no one could help listening, and soon everyone was hearing things. Each one heard something different. "Do you hear a noise like a huge pair of scissors opening and shutting over there?" Eustace asked Ranulph. "Hush," said Ranulph, "I can hear them crawling up the sides of the ship." "It's just going to settle on the mast," said Caspian. "Ugh," said a sailor, "there are the gongs beginning. I knew they would." Caspian, trying not to look at anything, especially not to keep looking behind him, went aft to Drinian. "Drinian," he said in a very low voice, "how long did we take rowing in? I mean rowing to where we picked up the stranger?" "5 minutes, perhaps," whispered Drinian. "Why?" Because we've been more than that already, trying to get out. Journeyman's hand took on the tiller, and a line of cold sweat ran down his face. The same idea was occurring to everyone on board. We shall never get out, moaned the rowers. He's steering us wrong. We're going round and round in circles. We shall never get out. The stranger, who had been lying in a huddled heap on the deck, sat up and burst out into a horrible screaming laugh. Never get out, he yelled. That's it. Of course, we shall never get out. What a fool I was to have thought that they would let me go as easily as that. No, no, we shall never get out. Lucy leant her head on the edge of the fighting top and whispered, Aslan, if you ever loved us at all, send us help now. The darkness did not grow any less, but she began to feel a very, very little better. After all, nothing has really happened to us yet, she thought. Look, cried Rhinoff's voice hoarsely from the bows. There was a tiny speck of light ahead, and while they watched, a broad beam of light fell from it upon the ship. It did not alter the surrounding darkness, but the whole ship was lit up as if by a searchlight. Caspian blinked, stared round, saw the faces of his companions, all with wild, fixed expressions. Everyone was staring in the same direction. Behind everyone lay his black, sharply edged shadow. Lucy looked along the beam and presently saw something in it. At first, it looked like a cross. Then it looked like an airplane. Then it looked like a kite. And at last, with a whirring of wings, it was right overhead and was an albatross. It circled 3 times round the mast and then perched for an instant on the crest of the gilded dragon at the prow. It called out in a strong, sweet voice what seemed to be words, though no one understood them. After that, it spread its wings, rose, and began to fly slowly ahead, bearing a little to starboard. Journeyman steered after it, not doubting that it offered good guidance, but no one except Lucy knew that as it circled the mast, it had whispered to her, Courage, dear heart, and the voice, she felt sure, was Aslan's, and with the voice of a delicious smell breathed in her face. Round and round, round. In a few moments, the darkness turned into a grayness ahead, and then almost before they dared to begin hoping, they had shot out into the sunlight and were in the warm blue world again. And all at once, everybody realized that there had been nothing to be afraid of, and never had been. They blinked their eyes and looked about them. The brightness of the ship herself astonished them. They had half expected to find that the darkness would cling to the white and the green and the gold in the form of some grime or scum, and then first one and then another began laughing. I reckon we've made pretty good fools of ourselves, said Rhinoff. Lucy lost no time in coming down to the deck, where she found the others all gathered round the newcomer. For a long time he was too happy to speak, and could only gaze at the sea and the sun and feel the bulwarks and the ropes, so as if to make sure he was really awake, while tears rolled down his cheeks. Thank you, he said at last. You have saved me from... But I won't talk of that. And now let me know who you are. I am a Telmarine of Narnia, and when I was worth anything, men called me the Lord Roop. And I, said Caspian, and am Caspian, king of Narnia, and I sail to find you and your companions, who are my father's friends. Lord Roop fell on his knees and kissed the king's hand. Sire, he said, you are the man in all the world I most wish to see. Grant me a boon. What is it? Asked Caspian. Never to bring me back there, he said. He pointed astern. They all looked, but they saw only bright blue sea and bright blue sky. The dark island and the darkness had vanished forever. Why, cried Lord Roop, you have destroyed it. I don't think it was us, said Lucy. Sire, said Journeyman, this wind is fair for the southeast. Shall I have our poor fellows up and set sail, and after that every man who can be spared to his hammock? Yes, said Caspian, and let there be grog all round. Hey ho, I feel I could sleep the clock round myself. So all afternoon, with great joy, they sailed southeast with a fair wind, but nobody noticed when the albatross had disappeared. And that's the end. Yet again. 2 more chapters. Done. We're chapter 13. I think we only, let's see, 13 and 14. So we only have two more streams left, and then we're going to be finished with this book. It's going so fast. You have to go? Okay, well, thanks for stopping by. And it was a fair wind. Fair wind. W-I-N-D. Not a fair win. It was a fair wind on the sea. But yeah, we only have 2 weeks left, and then we're done with this book. And so that's exciting, but sad, because this book is so good. But yeah, I mean, we're just crushing through this whole series. Yes, we will be doing The Lord of the Rings. We still have 2 more books in this series after we finish this one. And then we will be doing The Hobbit and all 3 of The Lord of the Rings. So you're going to be stuck with me for a lot more story time. And then next week, I'm hoping that I have a nice presentation ready to talk about Admiral Byrd. I really want it to be a good stream when I do these ones. And so I just have to thinking it like just going to treat it like, English class writing an essay, but just, gather information, write out a script, and put some visual aids with it, and then read my script and do it like that. So I don't know. Still figuring it all out because, I'm not used to putting on a presentation on a live stream. And so, I want it to be quite enjoyable and informative. And so hopefully we will be doing that next week. But yeah, it is a lot of work. But anyway, you're going to get off Meta, you mean Facebook? Yeah, I mean, at this point, I pretty much just use Facebook to post funny memes and just try and have a good time on there. I don't know. It's mostly terrible. So, yeah, that's what it is. But I don't know. I did start practicing my Spanish again because I wanted to. Facebook is toxic. The only way that Facebook is tolerable is because so many of my friends are like flat earthers, and so that's the only way that it's tolerable. I'm still working at Wally World. Yes, I'm still a garden vendor at the local Walmart. But yeah, I started practicing my Spanish again. So I really want to get bilingual. And I took Spanish in high school, and so I just want to be fluent in it. So yeah, I was practicing my Spanish today, and it's pretty fun. Walmart, yes, exactly. Dealing with the Walmart customers is always something very interesting. And yeah, those people are. You can speak a little Spanish. Why not? Oh, I got the hiccups. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a very useful skill to have, and yeah, So it's just a good hobby. So I was doing my Spanish yesterday and today, trying to do it for a few minutes every day, and yeah, just practicing phrases and words and sayings and whatnot. So work 9 to 5. What a way to make a living, barely getting by. Yep, for sure. You have to know Spanish to work at Walmart? I do not. The only reason that I went for Spanish is because I took 2 years of it in high school, so I already knew the, enough of the basic stuff of it that I'm just refreshing what I learned then and then adding on to that. So after I do Spanish, I will mostly do, I will most likely do French, and then I think that Latin would be really fun, and learn a few languages. Why not? Why not? Just put more information in my brain. Useful information. So, whatever. But yeah, no other streams till maybe next week on Wednesday, and then I'm very much hoping that we'll have a stream for Thursday and we can start up conspiracy chat. And yeah, I'm really nervous about it, honestly, because I want it to be really good. And I know that some things take time to improve them, and each week will be a different topic. But I want it to be informative and interesting and not boring, and just, want it to be a good presentation. So learned Spanish because my nephews are Spanish, and learned French too. Very nice. Yeah, I like Spanish because, like, when you're writing it, the letters are the same as English letters. They're just pronounced a little bit different, and so I like that a lot. I can't imagine learning something like Chinese, Japanese, Arabic, anything like that, because their letters are 100% different than American letters. So I'm going to start with Spanish, French, see where it goes from there. But yeah, Ray, I will most likely, so I think I'm going to open the stream, and then I'm going to play a clip of my presentation, so that it'll just all be concise. I won't get distracted while I'm giving the presentation, and then after it, it will be back to me being here live, and then I'll probably open up the phones and you guys can call in, add your thoughts or whatever, or more gravy to the topic, and yeah, we'll just kind of go from there. So yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun, but I am definitely very nervous because it's just not what I'm used to doing in live streams, but it's not out of the realm of possibility of something that I can do. Just have to nail it down and do it. So yeah, I think that is about it for the night. I just really don't have much going on. My brain is just kind of fried. So yeah, I speak decent Spanish, Castilian, and want to learn Mandarin Chinese next. That's impressive, Candace. That's really impressive. Good night, Eric. You can email me, Dottie, whenever you want, or need help on stream, throwing things together, whatever. Awesome. We'll do that. Yeah, so I'll give some shout outs and say goodbye. Eric Julian, Michelle L, Candace C, Barbara Zena Bear, 888 Industries 640015. Sue Finelli was here. Ginger Sugar Bush 905. Real Cosmology. I am High Degree. I think that's it. So, thank you all for being here. As always, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the thumbs up, and subscribe to my DLive and Twitch. And if you'd like to donate to me and my channel, PO Box 1598, Shelton, Washington 98584, paypal.me/finding Dottie, and Cashapp $DottiesDomes. So, thank you all for being here. Much love. Best guys and gals in the realm. And I'll see you all on the flat side. Bye.